As an older person who's been through the juvenile detention system and the adult prison system under the days of Joh Bjelke-Petersen and his predecessor, you tend to think the bad old days are gone, and all of a sudden there it is in front of your eyes again, but in some instances only worse. And you know, I'm 64, and you can see where this boy's life's at, and it's not a good place. What I can't understand, and what I've never been able to understand, is all the people that assault every Aboriginal person, non-Aboriginal person, whatever you want, are still employed in these positions. Now, when they start talking about a useless Royal Commission, which in all seriousness is going to be useless, until they went in and dragged those workers out by the scruff of their neck and threw them out of the job on the streets, like they would anybody else, and sacked them on the spot, nothing was ever going to look like justice. The second, these men, they're caught on video. There's a senior man caught on video saying, "Do what you like" to them. Now, if they were serious, those people would be on the dole line now. No, they're not serious. They're gonna call a nice little Royal Commission and brush it all over. We're going to have the Dylan Volers of tomorrow, because these governments will not learn a lesson. Many years ago, a place called Westbrook in Queensland shut down. Westbrook was a hellhole that created more violent criminals in Queensland than any other place ever did. Tamworth in New South Wales closed down because they were shown to be too violent to young offenders. Once they closed these places down, we started thinking, well, you know, those bad old days are gone. No, they were still there. They went underground for a little while. We had certain things like in the 70s, the Royal Commission into the violence in the New South Wales prisons, which had ramifications of institutions all through the country. They started stopping flogging us for a little while, but the floggings went on later on. In boys' homes, I think it's worse than in adult jails. I think with the boys, they just kept, it was underground, they kept flogging them. With adult jails, they filled them full of drugs so people would behave themselves. And that's another thing that we've got to address in this society too. People these days I work in a halfway house with blokes coming out of jail. Our prisons are full of drugs. If you've got a habit, go to jail. You can score easier there. But it's there as a control mechanism. Don't do that, sorry. But you can score easier there, and it's another means of human rights abuse, because I do know of people who go to jail without a habit and come out with one. Now that's a human rights abuse, and it was the late 70s, drugs were flooded into jails to control inmates. If you look at the 70s, we were pretty prolific in escaping and causing riots and doing all sorts of funny things. But after that, there was very little went on because everybody was whacked out their heads. But the juveniles, after inquiries and things like this, people slowed down for a while, and during the early 90s, kids weren't getting thumped around that much. But then you look at what happens. There's a pattern to this. Whenever you get a far-right government in power, either state or federal level, you get all the lunatics in society joining these institutions. As Kira pointed out, people come into a job as carer, they've got no qualifications. Who's doing the checks? Who's doing the checks? Somebody comes from another country, they've got a job like that. Caring for our kids, that's rubbish. When facts take our kids, they should be, if they're taken, they should not have been taken in this instance. This should have never have happened. But if kids are taken out of care, they're supposed to be put with other Aboriginal families. That's not happening. We're here in New South Wales, we have kids taken from Sydney, they end up near the border, into non-Aboriginal homes. All these kids are going to be future clients of places like Don Dale. It starts with this society, and we can jump up and down all we like, but unless we start taking action, we're going to have generation after generation after generation. You're looking at now the 60s version of a Dylan Voller. Right now, and I have not forgotten. And I dare say it's unfortunate, but Dylan won't forget when he's my age. There's a good chance he can straighten out. I did. There's a good chance he can do something with his life. I did, but you will never, ever, ever forget. And I'm known as a jokey guy and a happy guy, but in my own time, people don't see the nightmares I wake up to all these years later. That's what they subject you to. And you cannot have a society based on severe punishment. What I couldn't work out, they put me in a cage for years, 4 paces square, in a cage, and flogged me and flogged me. What I couldn't work out was I kept thinking one day they're going to let me out. That's an interesting thing to think. And I just wrote a play about it. It'll be on Yellow Monday Festival next year, about being kept in cages. And it's called 49 Days a Week. And it's about what it does to your mind. It's not a good place to be at. Yes, I can distance from it now, but I still have those feelings of despair. And I'll tell you something else, people don't realise this. I could be sitting in this room now, if somebody opened that door, the adrenaline rush would go straight through my body. I got out in 1979. That's the last time I've been incarcerated. That's nearly 40 years ago. If I hear a door open, the adrenaline rush happens immediately. In my own house, open a door, I'm prepared. That's what this does to you, and we've got to stop it. We cannot allow kids to be subjected to that. And we can't say, I used to say to people, this is still happening. And people would say, no, that was in the bad old days. No, the bad old days are now. We saw that. And we were trying to tell people that. For year in and year out, we're trying to say our people are being brutalised systematically in institutions. And people say, oh yeah, he's talking about the past. No. And it took this to wake society up. Well, society, wake up and start acting, because this is not a way to treat any human being on this planet.